সবাইকে শুভেচ্ছা। গতকাল আমাদের প্রথম সেশন ছিল আরিয়া মেনন, প্রডিউসার সেক্রেট গেমস। আর আজকে আমরা এই মুহূর্তে অপেক্ষা করছি নিহিত ভাবে। আম, জানি না আপনারা দেখেছেন কিনা। চকড রিসেন্টলি রিলিজড, 5 তারিখ রাত্রে রিলিজ হয়েছে নেটফ্লিক্সে। এবং নিহিত সেক্রেট গেমসেরও রাইটার। সো আমি সুপার এক্সাইটেড। ওর কাছ থেকে অনেক কিছু শেখার আছে। আম, আশা করি অনেক ইন্সপিরেশন পাবো আমরা যারা ইয়াং ফিল্ম মেকার, রাইটার, এবং কিভাবে খুব প্রসেস মেনটেন করে নেটফ্লিক্স পাশাপাশি অন্য অন্য যে প্ল্যাটফর্ম গুলো আছে, তারা রাইটিং রুম করে, রাইটার্স রিট্রিট করে। এই টার্ম গুলো অনেকেই আমরা জানি না। আজকে নিহিতের কাছ থেকে সব শিখে নিব। আর আড্ডা তো হবেই। পাশাপাশি আপনারা যারা দেখছেন, তারা লাইভ কমেন্ট করে আপনাদের প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারেন, অথবা আমাদের টিম ব্যাক এন্ডে কাজ করছে। আপনাদের কারো যদি মনে হয় যে আপনারা অংশগ্রহণ করবেন, আপনারা অংশ নিতে পারেন। নিহিত, welcome
Hi,
to our show. Yes, nice to see you, man. You are exactly
nice to
look
see you.
like the photograph.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
that
I'm glad.
innocent face. Yeah, I love your appearance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are eagerly waiting to know your journey, your story, the struggle, the cream part of your life that is now like 2020, and how it happens. It will be a fascinating journey, I hope. So yeah, tell
I hope
me,
too.
what's going on your life in this situation.
Uh,
This is a very particular situation, you know.
right now, basically, I'm trying to peel myself away from reading everything that's being written about the movie Choked, which has just come out. And I have gone to every depth of the internet that is possible. I've gone from good critics to bad critics to just political political Twitter to just people who are saying boycott the movie to people who are loving the movie. So I'm just trying to stay neutral and just read everything. So all of my day is going in just that.
Wow, wow, perfect. I just watched Choked 5th June night,
Yes.
and yeah, I think I will ask you a bunch of questions about Choked, but I want to start three rapid questions, if you allow me, about
Yeah, for
Choked.
sure. Yeah, for
You
sure.
ready?
Yeah.
It's not. By the way, this is not coffee with Karan, so don't
Yeah, I was
worry.
just going
No.
to say I have coffee. So if you're ready to be Karan, let's make this coffee with
Yeah,
Karan.
I have also, but I don't have any gift hamper, so yeah, no
Oh
formality.
no, okay. Okay.
So number one, I want to ask you, like, after the release,
Yeah.
who called you first? After watch the movie.
So actually, I the first reaction I got was from my mother because she hadn't watched the movie, so and she was sitting next to me. So she was watching the movie, and I was watching her face. And then so my mother was the first one, and then after that, my friend Nilay called me, and we had a long discussion. And then calls trickled in from other friends and stuff.
Wow. So I
Yeah,
can guess like the first call was like positive, and
yeah, of course, yeah.
yeah. So
I mean,
any
thankfully,
yeah,
people don't call you to tell you negative things. That I think that's a
yes.
good thing. So all the calls have been positive so far. Yeah.
But in any way, did you get any call or any like reaction which is negative,
Yeah.
but at the end you felt like yes, you can use that later?
Yeah,
Anything?
yeah, of course, lots of them, co-writers that I've worked with in the past, and just people from the industry that I've tried to pitch projects to before. And the good thing is that they've always been so far, they've always been supportive and constructive in their criticism. So they'll always tell me four things that really worked and then two things that didn't work. And then they are more often than not right. And I'm not being like defensive about what they're saying. So yeah, I have got plenty calls to say what worked and what didn't work for people. So
Wow, wow.
yeah,
And is this your like first formal interview after the movie released?
yeah. After the movie release, it's my first formal interview. Before I had done
Yeah.
one. Yay! And I've just been told that I have to do a couple of interviews day after tomorrow for the movie. So I'm very, very nervous. So this is a good rehearsal. This is a good sort of run for it.
You can sleep because I don't have any diplomatic questions for you. This is
Yeah,
fun. We
yeah.
just talk and we want to learn something from you. And I think you have plenty of experience to share. So my first formal question is like, when did you come to Bombay from Ahmedabad?
So actually, I'm not from Ahmedabad. I have been all over the country, all over India, because my father was in
Mm.
the Navy here.
Oh.
So we sort
Mm-hmm.
of moved around a lot, and my home base has now become Ahmedabad because my folks lived there for the have been living there for the last 10 or 12 years. But yeah, I came to Bombay in 2007 for my bachelor's of mass media degree, BMM degree, and I
Mm-hmm.
sort of came here for college.
Okay, okay. But
Yeah.
when you came, is there any like insight in your mind, like you one day you will be into this filmmaking scene and this world you will explore?
So actually, I was studying to be a doctor in Pune,
Oh,
and I had
wow.
actually done, yeah, I'd actually done 2 years worth of medical tuitions, and my parents had paid a bomb for it. And just before giving my 12th standard board exams, which is like the big exam, I sort of told my parents that I don't want to do this anymore 6 months before that. And I said that I want to try to write either for movies, like be a journalist, or write movies or make movies and see. And very understandably, when a 17-year-old person without any experience says that I want to be in the movies, it's a very preposterous thing for parents. But thankfully they did not force me to go down, like pursue medicine, which I was prepping to do. And so we decided that a sane thing for me to do as a stepping stone will be to pursue a degree in mass media, and Bombay would be the best place to do that because the whole industry is here. So I came to Bombay to do mass media, mass communication, and then I did the 3 year course. And while
Mhm.
doing the course, I started interning with the Times of India,
Oh, wow.
and that is where I sort of the dream of just being in the movies or trying to tell stories or writing sort of started materializing, because I got very good mentors in the form of Madhurita Mukherjee, who's currently the
Mhm.
editor of Bombay Times here, and
Mhm.
a lot of other people like her, and they sort of encouraged me. And throughout college I was writing for Bombay Times, which is at that point it was sort of a big deal because it's a major paper. Even if it's not like really great to read as a paper, it still had a lot of it gave me a lot of opportunities to just talk to directors and stars and be around people who were making the kind of films that I was liking. So it was sort of a steady climb up to, like, from BMM, from mass media, to then interning as a journalist and writing about
Mhm.
films and then meeting these filmmakers and these actors. So it was sort of a validation of every stage that it's okay to make the dream a little bit bigger, from maybe journalism
Mm.
to maybe starting to write something and then starting to meet directors. So it was a very steady climb, I would
Yeah.
say.
And I can relate because in my university time, I did the same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Though I didn't study mass communication or journalism, I studied
Yeah.
anthropology, but somehow I
Yeah.
chose to be a contributor for different newspaper to get chances
Yeah.
to get in touch with the filmmakers, my dream filmmakers,
Exactly.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. So during that time, can you remember anyone like who influenced you that time? Any director or writer or anyone, and how?
Okay. Actually, I would not be able to pinpoint on one because we did this show in. There's a TV channel called Zoom here, which is owned by the Times of India, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all interconnected basically. So I would work for the Times of India. The office was the TV channel Zoom, and then I would write
Mm-hmm.
for Bombay Times, and they were all one big parent company. So
Oh, wow.
what would happen is all of it was the height of the time when promoting movies had become a very big deal around like 10 years ago. And so every week, week in and week out, there would be the starcast of a film in our studios. And then along with my boss, I would sort of sit and make questions to decode their previous works, and just do a little bit of a in-depth dive on the director's ka filmographies, and maybe talk to the actors about how the experience of working in films is. So I would say week after week, so like I spent 3 years there in Zoom doing this same thing. So as those 3 years went by and trying to sort of make questions to get to understand what these people's experiences were in the industry, I sort of started thinking that, maybe it's not that difficult if I persevere a little bit, and maybe it is within grasps. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to, even now when you're asking me, I'm trying to think like one particular person. But in that 3 year span, there were so many nice movies and so many just directors and actors that I
Hmm.
sort of researched and did the interviews of, that I wouldn't be able to pinpoint like one person in all of that.
Yep. Makes sense. So
Yeah,
I'm super curious about like the Sacred Games story, because I
yeah,
know you had a long preparation for your career, the writing career,
yeah.
and Sacred Games was the biggest breakthrough for you. So
Yeah.
how did it happen back then?
So that is a very long story. Should I do like a 5 minute
Y-
version of it?
No. Feel free. I don't have any problem
Okay.
like listening to you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
we have time.
basically, okay, so what happened basically is by the time 2013 rolled around, I was pretty sure that I wanted to just take a break and write a film and really try to write a film. And I
Hmm.
had decided that I would at least give myself a year to pursue this. Because what had happened is after 3 years of Times of India, I had thankfully saved up on enough money to last a year. And the second thing was, I had a lot of contacts in the industry through PR people and just stars who had been kind over the last 3 years, and directors who had sort of made a little bit of a connection with. So I thought once I take a break from my day job and once I sit down to write a film, at the end of the tunnel, I was sort of confident that I would have people who would help me pitch the film around,
Hmm.
because of my Times of India job and because of all the little contacts that I had made. So in 2012 December, I quit my job, and I
Oh,
sort of
wow.
took all of 2013 to just sit and write a movie. So literally, I started writing Choked, the movie, on the 1st of January 2013, and all of 2013 I was just writing the film. And then the next
Wow.
few year, and I finished writing the film, and then I found out how difficult it is, even with a few contacts in the industry, how difficult it is to get a foot in the door, vis-a-vis production houses, vis-a-vis directors or stars. And it sort of, then my money ran out because I'd only saved up for a year, and then I had to keep doing multiple jobs to sort of stay afloat and still be able to pitch my film to whoever would listen to me. So that journey from 2013 to finally Phantom Films and Anurag sir coming into the picture was 2.5 3 years worth of journey. But then when Anurag sir came on board, I at least had the inkling of hope that maybe it will take time, but there is a good, great director on board now, so it was worth waiting. And then I waited a couple of more years with him, which I'll tell you in a little bit, maybe. Like that's a whole separate story. But what happened is I had waited or by myself from 2013 to 2015, and then with Anurag sir from 2015 to 2017. And 4 years
Hmm.
is a lot of time to not have any answers and just stay in this no man's land of like not knowing whether the film is going to get made or not going to get made, or what is going to happen to the film. So, and then in the meanwhile, I had reached my wits end. I had reached, my patience was fully over. At this
Oh
time
my
I was
God.
I was reviewing films for the Times of India, thanks to my contacts over there, and thanks to the fact that my previous mentors sort of still believed in me, and they gave me the job to review films for Times of India. So I was even bored of reviewing films for Times of India, because I was like, when is my film going to get made? So I just woke up one morning in late 2017, and it was 5 a.m. And I just sent a very long text message to Anurag sir at 5 a.m. saying, I genuinely want to know when this film is going to get made, what the intention around this film is, because I am having to do this job that I'm really not liking. And I don't want to just quit, because I also have to be realistic about staying afloat and just earning money for myself. And just tell me whether, even if the film is not made right now, even if the film is not going to get made anytime soon, just tell me whether there is any chance of me coming and working for you, and me coming and trying to assist you, and maybe I'll just learn how films are made, if nothing. Because
Wow.
reviewing films is not what I want to do in the longer run. Like, at some point in the future, I'd rather learn how films are made than review films. So I
Mm.
shot him this like entire 500-word text at 5 a.m., and then his reply was one line saying, "Come meet me."
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
This
then I
this
went and,
particular.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just at the end of the story. So he said, "Come and meet me," and I did go and meet him. And fortunately, this was 2 days before they were starting shoot of Sacred Games season 1. So that's how I got my foot in the door with Sacred
Mm.
Games, the show.
Mm.
And then in the first season, I assisted him. I was his script supervisor along with Rahul Badvelkar, who was also a script supervisor. And then I stayed with him on that set for like 6 months, and through that process. And then I learned, because I was already inside of the team, and because I knew people inside, mainly Arya Menon, who you had on your live session yesterday. She was the series producer for the first season. And then I just went
Mm.
up to Arya and said that I hear that you guys are looking for writers for season 2, and I'd really like to try out. And already Vikram sir and Anurag sir know that I'm a writer, because they have my script from Phantom Films. And then Arya was super enthusiastic and supportive, and she sort of
Yeah.
made all of this come together. And that's how I landed up writing for season 2. And that,
Wow.
yeah,
That's another, a story of a film behind
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. So I can relate actually the communication between Anurag, because the same thing also happened with me. Like I texted him back in 2016. I went to
Okay,
India for a shoot, like 1.5 month. I stayed there.
okay. Hmm.
There is a place called Sundarban. So
Yeah, yeah, of course.
yeah, I think it's in Andheri, right? Or
Sundar.
Varsova or
Oh,
Andheri.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I thought you were talking about like,
The same
forget
place.
it. Yeah, Andheri. Yes.
The same place where all the filmmakers and the people related to
That's
filmmakers filmmaking, they
Versova
stayed
Yari
there.
Road, but yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So then he texted me like, you can come and meet me, and I went. I saw like a white building, one stored, and there was a big yard and table, and so many young writers. They were writing
yeah,
together.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like super amazed. There was no Anurag Kashyap, and
Okay.
people said like, dude, you can't get the chance. Just
Hmm.
the very first day, you have to wait. So
Yeah,
I talked with them, and there was one
yeah.
Bangladeshi filmmaker also there. Like he was there for more than 6 months under Anurag
Okay,
Kashyap's writing retreat. So
okay.
yeah, I can relate to your story. Like when he texted you, come meet me.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, yes, he's open to you.
yeah,
So that's how the Sacred Games door opens back.
yeah.
When was it? Like 2000?
In 2017 with the first season, and then
Mm.
I've just been with the Sacred Games team in one way or the other, because then I joined the writers room of season 2.
So isn't it a little bit risky for you? Like after one season,
Yeah,
when already everything is set and different writers, I mean multiple writers wrote, and then
Yeah.
It's really a great challenge for someone to write the next season. So how was your like experience to writing with multiple writers, and how the writers read it, and the writing room, work? Can you just
Okay.
enlighten us a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because,
So I would
so
yeah.
many young filmmakers listening to your talk, so it will really help them to understand the new workflow, like how it works.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, so actually, I would just like to say that first of all, the Sacred Games second season writing room was, I think, the best learning experience that I've had till now. And that's actually a very rare thing to happen, because I know of other writing rooms and I know of other writers who possibly, the collaborative forces together are not there, because all of us as writers are extremely protective of our works, and we are
Mhm.
extremely sort of, ego does get in the way, and you do start to feel insecure about who's better, who's not contributing, who is contributing. But I really have to give it to Varun Grover, who is the
Mm, mm.
head writer of the
Yeah.
first and the second season. The way he just
Mhm,
got the room together, and the way he let us just be and gave us the freedom to just dive into it head first with our ideas, and he listened to every good, bad, and ridiculous idea that we had. So there
mhm.
was no, there wasn't a fear of what will he think, because he obviously comes from so much experience and he's so acclaimed as a writer, and we all look up to him, obviously. And then it could have been a very a risky thing to be in a room with him, where you would constantly think what would he think, and stay back and not
Yeah.
actually say what you had to say. But from the get go, the atmosphere that he sort of brought into the room was so helpful,
Mhm.
that you could literally say anything that came to your mind, and then we would all sit together and try to rationalize the idea. Even if it was a bad
Mhm.
idea, we would try to think rationally why it's bad or why it's good, and it would get a chance, like every idea would get a chance in the room. And because of that, it was such an enriching experience as a writer, because you mainly you get to see how other writers brains work. So you
Mm.
will be thinking of an idea from a certain angle, but the other writer with you in the room will have their own perspective, because they come from a different background, they come from a different process of thinking, and then that enriches the idea, or that then tells you why your idea is maybe not a good idea. And it
Um,
was just a very nice and collaborative room. And we are all like we still talk. It's been like 1.5 years since the room ended, but we are all friends, and we have a group and a WhatsApp group.
mhm.
And it's just been a very, very nice experience being in that room. Mostly because every idea went, and everybody got a chance to sort of explore what they wanted to. And I know I'm agreeing that that's a rarity, but if you can find a room like that, then there's nothing like it.
Wow. So how many writers, was your writing room, like for Sacred
It
Games?
was the four of us. Varun was the head writer, and then there were three more
Mhm.
writers, including me. There was Pooja Tolani and Dhruv Naram. So it was the four of us, and there were 8 episodes. So we each wrote 2 episodes.
Oh, wow. And Varun actually interconnect all the episodes, something like that.
Yeah, so yeah. So there was a very big like workflow that was decided in advance. So we did rigorous discussions in the room for the first 3 months. For the first 3 months, we would just come to the office and discuss. Every idea was valid. Every possible
Mm.
subplot was explored. We had whiteboards on whiteboards of information, and we were just four writers sitting in this one tiny room and just talking. There was nothing but talking. And then we would
Wow.
validate each other's ideas or tell each other why the ideas didn't work. And Varun would sort of bring his would make it cohesive by trying to make sense of all of our ideas. And this happened for 3 months. And then
Mhm.
after entire arcs for the second season were in place, and after we knew where we wanted to begin, what the middle was, and what the end was. Then Varun sort of sat down and outlined episodes from the information that we'd all put together, and he made the structures of episodes. And then he sat with Vikramaditya Motwane, and they did one sort of round of what all the episodes are going to look like. Then we
Mm.
decided, then we just discussed and decided who will do which episode. And that was also purely based on just who's free to take up which episode at what point. So it wasn't even like I am more emotionally attached to this. It was
Oh
just
my God.
basically like, oh, I have some. I, it was very surprising because the first ever call that we did to decide who will do which episode was literally like us saying, I have something to do this week and I'm not free. And then Varun would be like, okay, so you do episode one, you do episode three. So it was just, we were all so attached to the content that we had put together in the 3 months of discussion, that we were actually okay doing whichever episodes. And then after Varun and Vikram finished one round of making sense of all of our scattered ideas, then we sort of split up into episodes, and then we sat and wrote our individual episodes. That's how it sort of was shaped.
Wow. Did you fight any moment like
No,
between the
actually,
right?
no, because every writer's room has, I think, a sort of energy that's established in the very beginning of the writer's room. So if there
Mm.
are people who sort of don't get along with each other, and if there are people who are insecure of each other, it will be very apparent in the first sort of maybe 20 days. It doesn't take that much time. It's you, if you're a little, if you are a little aware of just energies around in the room, then you will come to
Yeah.
know how people react to your ideas, or how people are sort of receptive to what you're saying generally, which is not related to the show also. And just thankfully, everybody, all four of us in the room, got along so well that
Mm.
there didn't have to be fights, because if I put forward an idea and it was a terrible idea, then people just told me it was a terrible idea and I didn't mind it. So the problems happen when somebody is trying to tell you it's a bad idea while sort of unintentionally insulting you, maybe. But all of us were just
Yeah.
like got along so well that we would just laugh at each other's bad ideas, and we would just be upfront and say that, like, you're crazy, this is not going to work. So then that tension of that that bad vibe of, oh my god, how do I put up with this person for the next 6 months now, was just never there. And thankfully,
Mm.
I'm again and again saying that I don't think there has been instances of a room like this that I've heard after that. And I know that it
Mm.
gets increasingly difficult to be in writers' rooms, and I know that is all
Yeah.
valid also. But thankfully, this room wasn't like that room, the other rooms. So it was a good experience.
I'm actually putting a little bit much time for this question because I'm curious about to know the character arc or character motivation actually
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
write a single
yeah,
writer, I mean a solo writer, he or
yeah,
she
yeah.
has his or her own vision about
Sure,
the character, and
sure.
it's, I think it's really difficult for like four people writing different characters and it's crossover.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how this continue? I mean, who is the person writing the major character arc or the character
Hmm.
motivation or character design, if I say so?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So for that also, we had a very, I think, we had a very productive plan in place for that also. How we started out was, it was the four of us. So we split up in teams of two, and we just took
Mm-hmm.
characters. So me and Pooja would do the Sartaj track, and Varun and Dhruv would
Oh.
do the Gaitonde track. And then
Mm,
we gave it a whole week. And in the whole week, Pooja and I would just sit together, and those two would just sit
mm,
together, and they would put every idea for the arc that they had in place. And then we got it to a place where at least the both of us were happy with what we had written for Sartaj, and then the both of us were
mm,
happy with what they had written for Gaitonde. And as the week came to an end, we actually switched. So we gave our material to them, and then they gave their material to us to sort of do more or take out or add things, because after a week
Mm-hmm.
of working on something, you sort of reach like a stagnated point where you can't think more. And then at that time, it just helps that two completely fresh minds, two completely fresh pairs of eyes are looking at it. So for the main two characters, we did this exercise of just taking a week and then writing by ourselves in pairs of two, and then just switching. And then we took a look at what they had written for Gaitonde, and they took a look at what we had written for Sartaj, and that's how we tackled the two main sort of broad arcs of the season. And then for every
Mm.
other small character, we just divided it into like four people each took two characters. So somebody had Jojo, somebody had Batya, somebody had KDY, somebody had some other character, somebody took Guruji, somebody took Shahid. So
Mm.
that's how we sort of went. And for that, we actually gave a lot more time, because Gaitonde and Sartaj were established from the first season, and we just had to work on plot. We didn't really have to work on establishing characters as such, because those characters were already established in season one. But for something like a Jojo or a Batya, who you had not
Mm.
really seen in season one, we had to decide arcs, and we had to decide what the character is going to be like. So that was going to obviously take a lot more time than for Sartaj and for Gaitonde. So that when we decided those characters and we split those characters amongst the four of us, for that we gave a lot more time. I would say we were like continuously working on it for maybe 3 or 4 weeks until we were sure, and then again we just switched it up, and I had two characters that I gave to somebody else. I took somebody's characters, and then we did like this mixed bag process of trying to reach like a final spot in the character.
Mm. Wow, wow. That
Yeah,
that that is really like useful and amazing experience.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was thinking like while you were writing for Sacred Games, then what happened with the mind that was working with Choked like from 2013, because it's actually in between.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
2020. You started Choked like 2013, and then
yeah.
Sacred Games happened 2017 and 18. So like uh, what was your mind for Choked then?
What happened was just the fact that I knew that this was a long process then. So what happened was I focused a lot of my energy on it in 2013, 14, and 15 maybe. And then by the time my funds ran out, I did have to go out and do jobs. So once I started taking up more jobs, I worked for a year in Hindustan Times. I did a lot of odd jobs here and there. And then
Mm,
I when I joined Sacred Games and all of that, so after a point, what I would do was every year or every 6 months, I would sit down with the script and give it a reread and give it a rework. So that's what I used to do, because with the knowledge that now it's not going to get made, at least in the next 6 months, I knew that I had to keep it alive in some way. But also there was that sort of inertia to just go back into it with the knowledge that nothing is going to happen. So one side of me would be like, what's the point fixing it up or revising it or editing it or doing anything right now? But the other part was like, what if Anurag sir just texts me one day saying, come, we'll make it next month? Then I'm not ready. So that fear is
mm,
what sort of kept me going, for me to like, every 3 months or every 6 months, I would open the draft on my computer and I would see what is what, whether the characters are fine, whether I would check back in with them and see how they're doing and how the plot was doing, and just like keep it ready, or keep it at least 70-80% there, so that if I needed it in an emergency, I would be ready with some level of it then. So like when I wrote for
mm.
the whole year, that the writers room for Sacred season 2 was an entire year, from Jan 2018 to December 2018. All of that year we were just sort
Wow.
of working. So it took us a whole year to put the thing together. And so during that entire year I did not touch Choked. But it was so fascinating that when it ended, and then when I reopened the Choked file, I just had
Mm-hmm.
so much more perspective from the writer's room, and I had so much more learning from the writer's room. Then
Mm-hmm.
that became fun to sort of go back to Choke, like take all of that experience and learning to the next draft of Choked. So basically, everything that you do just comes in handy at some point or the other. So it's great.
Yeah, yeah. So you
Yeah,
you just mentioned like you ran out of money. So anything
yeah.
you sacrificed for your filmmaking life? Like anyone walked out, like girlfriend or relative or anyone?
No, 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 nothing major like
No.
that. No, but I think everybody who has the sort of conviction to make a living in this industry has to go
Mm,
through has to go through the rhythms of it, because you are going to run out of money and you are going to not meet people at the right time and you are going to sort of face all those difficulties. So, like, I have done everything possible to keep myself from running out of money. So I did good things like writing for the Hindustan Times, which is a
mm,
which is one of the nicer job experiences of my life, where I was a features writer. So I got to do all sorts of stories, not just film stories. So when I branched out from film journalism, that gave me a new perspective on things, that gave me a new perspective on writing. So that was helpful. But then there were also times when I've said this in a couple of places, but there were also times where I was just so out of cash that I would do data
mm.
entry for
Oh my
Shopperstop
God.
website. Yeah, so I would literally get a laundry list of clothes and their descriptions, and I was supposed to sit and put it in an Excel file. Like, I would get images and then I have to look at the
Mm,
images. And so suppose it's like a polka dot black dress, so I'll just get a photo of it. Then I'm supposed to open the Excel sheet and write it's a black dress, it's size small, it's polka dots with white dots on a black dress, and upload it
oh
to, like,
God.
basically. So that also had to do that. Like, I did that for a whole 6 months, I think, and that paid
Mm,
well. Let me be honest, it was ridiculous work, but it paid well because it was like 10 rupees a product. So I was getting 10-15 rupees to just for working for 10 seconds, basically. So
wow.
when you put it in large numbers and the kind of
Yeah.
numbers that I did, it obviously made a lot of sense to just do this, because after I'm done putting black dress, polka dot, this, that, then I have the rest of the day to write my scripts, write my characters. So it was a good decision from every angle that I could think of. So I've done those things. Then I've written for gossip magazines. I've freelanced for just like ridiculous articles I've written. Then I found the Times of India job where I was a film critic. And then as a film critic, it really is a very, very difficult job. I really have to say this. And I think we like hate on critics a little too much, because you have to watch every single movie that releases. That's not an easy gig. So I have been to really shady screening rooms in the basement of some building where some random producer was screening his B grade movie for us, and we were just supposed to review it no matter what. So then that was sort of a different kind of experience. So yeah, I think anybody who really wants, is confident about and has conviction in their own talent and skill, and who thinks that they are going to, like, it is going to happen one day or another, has to go through all of these rigors
Mm,
of trying to make it in the industry. So I also went through all of this.
wow. And I think that should be the process, because it's
Yeah,
it's it's really precious journey,
yeah,
and yeah, we should follow that. We should follow
yeah,
her.
for sure.
So we have someone who wants to talk with you. So I'm requesting my team to connect him. So while we are waiting, I want to ask you like a very quick question about sacred games. Like, which one is your
Hi.
favorite? The first one or the second one?
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Bhai.
Hello, Bhaiya.
So
Hey, nice meeting you.
I was just asking a short question and then we can talk. So my
Sure.
question was like, which one is your favorite, season one or season two for Sacred Games?
I mean, I'm obviously going to say season two. There's not going to be any diplomatic answer here, but I was also on season one. I have a AD credit on season one, and I've worked for that show. That was the first time I was on a film set working. So the kind of things that I've taken away from season one are never going to be paralleled with anything else. But yeah, season two.
Okay, you are honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, Pavel bhai, thanks for joining us one more time. And
Thank you.
actually, Pavel bhai was also yesterday's session, but he was super excited about your session also. So he requested over and
Yay!
over,
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we thought like,
Just
okay,
because I'm a writer also. I
Yeah.
am a copywriter working in the industry,
Okay.
advertising industry. So
Okay.
yeah, why not?
go
Good.
ahead.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, same here, same here. It was really nice to listen to your chills and charms and pains and all about writing.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
yeah, I can surely relate to those things, man. And
I'm sure. Yeah.
you're having a great journey, which is really really very inspiring for young writers, for us as well, who are somehow connected to the industry, film, advertising, all. Uh,
For sure. Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
thanks for sharing these things with us. I have a few things to ask you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Go
I
for it.
should yeah I should start with, like, it's kind of a basic question, I hope, but I really want to know it from you, from your perspective. uh, Actually, where do you meet your characters? I mean, where do the stories come from?
Okay. That's really sort of a wide range of possibilities, and I can't pinpoint on where, but I am always like, so I'm very interested in really stories which have something weird and quirky in them. So, like with Choked, I knew that I wanted to write about a lower middle class family who's going through the motions of not having money. But then, when the idea of just money coming from a sink came to me, that's when I knew that like I'd had the weirdness that I look for. I'd got
जाओ
that.
तो
So, sorry, can you hear me?
Hello, Pavel bhai. Uh, we can't hear
I
you.
think yeah, I
Ah,
think
yes,
he's
yes.
stuck.
Pavel bhai, can you
Can
hear
you?
us? Hello, Pavel bhai. Uh, I yeah, I think the connection.
Yeah, I think he's facing
But
some
I think you can
difficulties.
continue because it will be
Yeah.
recorded, so
Okay. Okay.
definitely people can watch later also, and Pavel bhai
For
also
sure.
can join. So yeah, you can continue.
For sure. No, so just I was just like, oh hi, there he is.
Can you hear us, Pavel bhai? Hello, hello. The technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue. Yep.
Are you sure?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. No, so just like I was saying, I don't think like the stories coming is the difficult part for me personally. The difficult part is when you think of something, you obviously know that you want to write it in a certain way, and you want the characters to be a certain person that you've maybe known in your life, or maybe a certain person that the aspirational quality in a person, or maybe someone in your life is not being that way, and then you make your character go that way that you want them to go. And it's just I don't think it's that complicated, but the complicated part for me is that I really like look for something bizarre to happen to people in stories. So, like I was saying, when I started writing Choked, also, I really knew that I knew the characters because there are a lot of people like that in my life. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
relatives who resemble the main husband wife characters that I have written. I wanted to give them qualities that I wish my relatives and my friends and my acquaintances had, which they don't. So, that's sort of
Mm-hmm.
how my way of looking at it is that you know a person and how the expected version of a person, and then you sort of add your own little things to make them like a good character who's like well rounded maybe. And then the moment when the drain pipe and the part of the money coming to her from there came to me is when like I felt relief, because I knew that that was sort of the weird thing that I always look for, and I'd got that in the story, and then it just flew from there nicely. So I think
Wow.
the urge to just make stories a little bit bizarre, because that's sort of my thing. So that was the more difficult part, and just the characters and stories by themselves. I think if you're an observant enough person and if you're just keeping your eyes and ears open, characters will come to you. So
Perfect. So I'm taking one more question from someone who wrote. His name is Golam Muntakim Fahim. It's
okay,
relevant to that you just mentioned. So
okay,
he's asking, you have written a very amazing film, Choked, which is clearly based on the. Here is another one. His name is Sufi. Sufi, you just
hi
stay with us.
Sufi.
I'm reading
Hello.
one more question from another participants, and then I will get back to you. So you have
Okay,
written a
sure.
very amazing film, Choked, which is clearly based on the post demonetization chaos. Do you faced any political pressure during writing or making the film? If so, how did you handle this pressure as a writer?
Oh, absolutely not. That was very easy, because you really can't oppose something that the government has literally shoved down your throats. So it wasn't like I was making up any part of the struggle or any part of the bizarreness of the situation, because it did happen in India. We were just told at 8 o'clock one day at night that all of our money is not going to be valid anymore. So the problem I
Oh my
think would
God.
happen if I took if I took any creative liberties and made it bizarre. But the government itself had done such a great job of making our lives difficult that I didn't need to invent anything. So I didn't face any backlash. In fact, everybody who knows Anurag Kashyap as a person on Twitter or his political views, you would know that he was going to push me more and more to make it like even more fiery in a way, because
Hmm.
he because he is the kind of person who has a lot of opinions and they are mostly valid, and he wants to put them across in all of his works. But yeah, there was absolutely no political pressure or tension about sort of writing about demonetization. Everything
Hmm.
that happened in India is in the movie. There's not one bit of exaggeration.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really salute you people, because this is really important to
yeah,
portray what is happening in
yeah.
real life. So thank you for joining, Sufi. Yeah, Nihit is here. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Whatever you
Hello,
want to
Nihit
ask.
Bhai. Hello, Arif Bhai.
Hi,
Thank you for
hi, hi,
thank
hi.
you for holding your laughter on my cute bald head. I just had this cut. Oh, so
I
first
wish
of
I had your head right now, because I was telling Arif that I'm using this as a headband, because look at this. It's all just, I'm going to go bald soon. So yeah.
yeah, you should
Yeah.
have one.
Uh, yeah,
It's really comfortable.
yeah, I know, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for being here. So one small disclaimer: like my mother-in-law saw the movie Choke last night, and she absolutely loved it.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
kudos on that. And yeah, I actually struggle a lot while writing any story or character. So I focus on making something documentary. So I have the characters set. So this question is like very basic question for a writer, I think. So so the question is, so how do you build your characters? Do you have
Okay.
a character library preset on your mind? On stories you drag those character into stories, or like what's your process?
Okay, so like I was just telling him, at least in my own personal experience, and I really
Mm,
have to say this, that yes, I do have a film out recently, but I've not been around for that long. As in, I've
mm,
just sold so many things and I've written so many limited amount of things. So I'll just
mm,
speak to my experience of the last 4 or 5 years of writing. And in
Mm-hmm.
that, I was just saying, you have to keep your ears and eyes open first and
mm,
foremost, because everybody that you will ever write into your film exists outside in the world. I think some version
obviously,
of them exists outside in the world. So
obviously.
of course characters will come from people around you, people you just see on public transport, people you have heard about but never met.
Mm,
And then it's just about bringing a certain level of believability to them. And I think
mm,
that's enough if you're an empathetic person, and if you just try to listen to people and their problems and how they're dealing with their daily lives. I think that to bring in that empathy is very, very important.
mm,
So it's like a mishmash of trying to inculcate something that you've already seen outside in the world,
mm,
and then bringing your own level of empathy to the characters and your own level of understanding, maybe your own political views and maybe sometimes other people's political views. So I think like a very good thing that I have recently started doing, like in the last 2 years, and that I just was having a chat with my other writer friend also, was that every time I'm stuck on a character, every time I think that I don't know what this character is or where they are going to go from a particular point in the story,
mm,
I just like pause and think and write down their daily routine. So what do they do when they wake up? What do they do when they are?
mm,
What do they do on 11 a.m. on a day? What do
Mm-hmm.
they do at night? What do they eat? Where do they go? What films do they watch? What music do they listen to? And all of this is never going to show up in your films, because
true.
because it's just not like, it's that cardinal rule of you don't show people going to the bathroom for a reason, because
Obviously, definitely.
it's never like, it's never like, it's mostly never important in the context of a
Mm,
story. But I think when I've started doing this exercise in the last sort of 2 years, it just
mm,
gives me like a fresh perspective on, if this person is eating this food and watching this movie and thinking this way, then maybe they'll
mm,
react a certain way in the context of the plot and the story. So then it just sort of opens up one more lane to take your character into, rather than just knowing that, no, this character is just morally correct, he likes
mm,
this, he doesn't like this, and he wakes up at this time and sleeps at this time. Then you're sort of
yeah.
boxing yourself and the character into like restrictions. But if you're hitting a wall and you just take a day and maybe wonder what they are watching on Netflix and what their opinions are about movies, and what I think that helps a lot. For me, it has been very, very helpful, and I would recommend that just as a process to see if it helps in your writing or other writers' character building and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just one small follow-up question. So I
Sure.
heard you
Yeah,
saying you like the quirkiness of a character, and you said about creating empathy towards the character.
yeah,
So
yeah.
where do you put the fine line between quirkiness of a character and making people empathize with that character, or you just go with your instinct?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive, empathy and
Mm-hmm.
quirk, because sometimes a really quirky character is somebody you absolutely feel from the bottom of your
Mm-hmm.
heart for. And for some
Sure.
reason, right now, the biggest example that's jumping to my head is Jojo Rabbit, where the Hitler character, you don't feel empathy for them. You can see yourself sort of being on that team with the imaginary friend and stuff. So if somebody can play Hitler with that sort of, I want to say, softness, then like there really isn't like a limited boundary to empathy versus quirk. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of quirky characters you can really feel for, because at the end of the day, na, like quirk means just, I think, people who are being the most authentic version of themselves. And at
Sure.
some point of time, we are, as people, we sort of restrict ourselves at a particular level. And then when you see a
Mm-hmm.
quirky person, I think the first instinct that I get is, oh, like I have that urge to do that, but I'm not doing it because I'm a civilized person. So the empathy instinctively just comes with a quirky character, I think. I don't think there has to be like a line between the two.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much,
much for the
Sophie,
insight.
for joining
Thank
us.
you.
I
Thank you,
think,
Arif bhai. Thank you, Nihit bhai.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank.
thank
So, following with Sophie, one thing came to my mind, like,
Yeah.
I believe you already, practiced with the structure of writing a script, definitely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
while you are writing, is it like always ticking on your mind, like you have to maintain the three-act structure or hero's journey, or the academic terms and stuff, or like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just follow your own style or like custom-made structure?
So I am not a academically trained screenwriter. I've never done a course. I've never been to a college to study
Mm-hmm.
screenwriting. And I think there are very big merits to both schools of thought, because people who have been trained have been exposed to a lot more good writing than I think us, because it's
Mm-hmm.
important to also show young writers, if you're showing them a great film, then to break it down and tell them why this structure works in this way. I think when somebody does like a college course or does a screenwriting course, that is extremely helpful. But because of my
Yeah.
background and because of how I sort of stumbled from one thing to another and journalism to media to this to that, I've not had a
Mm-hmm.
classical training of sort of screenwriting. So what I
Mm-hmm.
usually do is just like think of a story, I make sure that I have a beginning, middle, and end, and then I just sit down and write a step outline. I think for me, a step outline is the most important thing, because in
Mm-hmm.
that you know your film in and out. You just know your characters, you know your film, or episode, whatever it is that you're writing. I think it gives you a sort of viewfinder view of what is it that you're trying to create, because in that, even though there are no dialogues or there are reference dialogues or there are no fleshed out characters, you at least know what is happening in the scene, and you at least know what is happening at which point in the screenplay. So I think a step outline has been the most helpful thing for me in the last 3 or 4 years that I have written. And once the step outline is complete, I sort of have a feeling of whether this is working as a film or no, or whether this is working as an episode or no. And then it becomes so much simpler to just go back to those parts that are not working and then fix them, as opposed to when if somebody just starts cold writing a screenplay on first draft, then just
Mm-hmm.
the nervousness of not knowing what your next scene is. And even if you figure out your next scene, then what are the characters talking about, what are the dialogues, are they right dialogues, are they wrong dialogues? And
Yeah.
all of that is so nerve wracking to just start on a blank page of final draft and go from there. So I think a step outline really does that for me, in the way that even a synopsis does not do. Like I never do 5-page synopsis or 2-page synopsis, because I
Mm-hmm.
can't write it as a short story when in my head the final intention is to write it as a screenplay. So and this is just a very personal opinion, because when I write it as a 5-page run on copy for 5 pages and paragraph after paragraph, and then that sort of becomes more an exercise in English and writing features than it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
screenplay thing. Because at the end of the day, maybe like mostly your characters are not going to speak in that kind of English that you're writing in the 5-pager. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that will only come to you when you sit with your software and then your character's name is typed out and you start writing their lines. That's, I think, doing 3 or 4 drafts of that is going to be a lot more helpful than doing like 5, 6, 7, 10 pages. And just I'm very lazy, so if I write something down for 10 pages, then I lose the heat to sort of do the screenplay, because then I've exhausted my energy just doing a 10 page, so heavy, like the text is so heavy in a 10 pager, I can't even tell you. So I've never tried to do that. I don't think it works for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
but if it works for people, great.
Wow. We already, finish our 1 hour, but I have a couple of more questions, and I really want to read out some comments also. If you allow me, I can move on. Is it
Sorry,
okay?
sorry.
Like,
I was
no,
adjusting my
it's
hairband.
it's actually I was talking. We already finished 1 hour, but I have a
That's
couple of
fine.
more
That's fine.
questions. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So this is very interesting question. Someone asking, his name is Sakib Rahman. How much
Okay.
personal emotions you allow to your characters? Very interesting.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Personal emotions in the sense that my emotions, or
Yeah, your emotion. How much personal emotions you allow to your characters?
okay, okay. I feel like that is like 100% because everything has to come from inside of you. So what your
Hmm.
characters feel is going to be a version of what you have felt at some point of time. So I think it always sort of has to come from you. And I understand that now the like the argument to this can be, oh, but like if you're writing a murder mystery, then you've never murdered somebody, then how do you sort of bring that from your personal whatever. But then at that point it's not important whether you've murdered somebody, but it's important if you felt guilt, because that's the sort of emotion that comes into play when you're
Yes.
talking about something like a murder mystery. So I
Hmm.
think everything that your characters feel will eventually come from a place inside of you, and what you have felt in your life, what your experiences have been, you just have to know which parts to pick up and play up and down for the characters.
Yeah, and there is another question which is also related to this question. He is
Yeah.
asking, it's a long question, but I'm cutting it in a short. I'm reading out the last part. He is asking which character you would be in Choked or any other movie character in your mind.
Oh, I'm very clearly Sarita. I am. If you've seen the movie, I'm very clearly Sarita because I
Hmm.
feel frustrations like her, and I feel boxed in like her in a lot of places in my life, and I do feel like I have given those chances to people while knowing that they are only doing harm to me. Like Sushant is only doing harm to Sarita, but she's still like again and again giving him a chance because she's a fool in the same way that I am a fool. So I really think that I empathize with her a lot. And in every way, I can get bitter like her. I can get sarcastic like her. It's just in every way. I think she's pretty close to me.
So, as we are talking about Choked, let's focus on Choked a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I'm super curious, and I think all the audience they would love to know the working relationship between you and Anurag. Yeah, it's a massive thing.
Okay. Uh, it is a massive thing, and it is a gigantic thing for us here also. So
Yeah.
it's great. I absolutely love Anurag sir, and just like never in my wildest thoughts would I have imagined that the first screenplay that I would write would end up becoming an Anurag Kashyap film. And that itself is such a, momentous thing for it to happen, that I'm always going to be like eternally indebted to him for just showing the kind of faith and interest that he has in my writing time and again. And all of that is a given, all of that is an established fact, but it does get sort of difficult to work with a director when you're so clear in your mind about what your film and your character is, and then for you to explain it to somebody who's seeing it in a different way. So whether it is with Anurag sir or whether it is with Shashank Ghosh, who has directed one of the other shows that I've written, uh,
Hmm.
or whether it's with Neeraj Gehwan, who was the co-director of Sacred Season 2. I think it's always a tricky situation because as a writer, you can never counter with the fact that I know it's working in this way because the director is going to always be the boss of the captain of the ship. So what you can do is just plead with them and try to convince them that you know from the bottom of your heart that something is going to work in a different way, and then fortunately if they see it, then that's the sort of collaboration that works wonders. With Anurag sir, I think a lot of the things that we initially disagreed on, we had discussions on discussions and debates on debates, and I've fought with him like I've fought with nobody else, and he's called me a pain in his ass as a joke and seriously both. And we've just had that sort of a, and that's very very essential also, because then you won't get to see what the other person is coming from and what they are trying to bring to your screenplay and bring to your characters. And obviously I am not even a baby in context of having worked in the industry, because he's been around for 27 years. He's worked so much. He's a legend, if I may say so. And then like I have 3 years worth of experience and two shows. So it's always like a tug of war between him and me about what works and what doesn't. And he gets frustrated with me because he's like, do you realize how much I've been in this industry? And then I'm like, yeah, but I have written this, I have given birth to this story. You've been around for the longest amount of time, but I've been with this story 5 times more than you. And like those sort of discussions we keep having, we keep going back and forth. But the important thing is just to reach a middle ground in the end, which works for the both of you. And compromise is a very big part of it. So you have to see what the other person is trying to say, which I think I obviously saw, but it was his kindness that he also saw points in what I was saying, given his kind of experience and given his kind of expertise and just what sort of legacy he comes from.
So during the shooting phase, did you also, participated, or like you just hand over the script and you watch
Oh no
it?
no 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 no. So that's completely different here from director to director.
Hmm.
Increasingly, most of the directors are becoming like welcoming and becoming okay with having writers on sets, which I think is very essential also in the longer run. I think all writers should go on sets, and I think all writers should be nosy, and I think all writers should try to, not just don't let go of your script. It's something you've like it started with you in a room on a table and a computer. Why would you just hand it over and let it go? Don't ever do that. But like just please try to convince your directors that you have to be there. Fortunately, I didn't have to convince anybody with Choked and with Sacred Games, because Anurag sir insists that the writers come to his sets, and he insists that the writers be
Mm.
around for when he wants to change something. He made it a point to come to me and ask me if it's okay that he's changing this tiny little thing. And it was
Wow.
really surreal because he's Anurag Kashyap and he's asking me whether I can change this line. And I was just dying of shame, because of course he can change a line. He doesn't need to ask me about it. But that's his like big heartedness, that he really genuinely does respect every sort of technician who's part of the crew, from the writer to everybody. And I think the best part of working with him is that he values everybody's opinions. So you feel like you're contributing, and you feel like you're a part of the process, and you feel like even if it's an Anurag Kashyap film, you've contributed enough to it. And he really takes care of you in that way. He makes you feel important, which for a writer I think is it's a very valued emotion.
Yeah. Someone texted me. He wants to know, like, the set. Is it a real one, or it's a made up thing? Sarita's house and the neighborhood. It's.
It's a mix of both, because we found a dilapidated building somewhere around in Bombay, and it was a full society, and just nobody lived in the entire society. So we took it up
Oh
and
wow.
we shot quite a lot of things in the society. We'd set up houses in the society, and everything that you see, all the staircases, all the terraces, every time a character is at the door is an actual location, is the building that we shot in. But once you enter the door and go inside the house, it's a set.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
we had a really, really good production designer, Ravi Srivastav, who
Hmm.
built just the most fantastic realistic sets, and he matched everything to that building. So then when you see Sarita climbing the stair and entering the door is where it's
The
a
door.
real location. But when you cut to the inside shot of her walking in the corridor, it's a set.
Wow. And what's the black thing coming out, when Sarita picking all the notes from
It's
the
just
kitchen?
it's muddy water. There was a entire system set up. There was a special effects person who had come to set, and one of the ads, Animesh, was responsible for that. So Animesh would sit under the drain, poor thing, with this dirty water, and then we were timing everything just right, and we would cue Animesh to sort of turn on the pipe, and then we would set up the shot, and then the water would regurgitate from the pipe, and then we would do the shoot. And if another go was required, if another take was required, then poor Animesh had to just redo the entire thing, clean up that,
Oh
get
my
that mess
God.
cleaned up, fill up that water, get it to the right level, the right speed of water. And he was just sitting under that little tiny nook of room that was created under the sink, and all of that was set, obviously. So all of that was going to be a set because we needed space under the kitchen to sort of do the
Hmm.
mechanism of the water coming out, the timing and the speed of the water and everything. So it was a process. So we had dedicated one entire day to all shots of the water coming out and her picking up notes. 2 entire days was just that.
Yeah, and definitely I should mention the, actors. Oh my
Yeah,
God, like the balance between them, all the neighborhood,
yeah,
and also Sarita and the husband. It's amazing. The set of the characters. It's not like only one. I can't mention
yeah,
only
yeah.
one name. It's a set.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really did
it's
become a very collaborative thing, and they were doing a lot of give and take with each other, and it was a good set. It was a great set. I'll pass on your
yeah.
message to them.
Yeah, and actually, Rajashri will come in our
Okay.
show also.
Oh,
So yeah,
lovely,
we
lovely. Okay.
we can have some real
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
experience from her. So I'm
Exactly.
little bit
Sorry. I just need to put my laptop on charging. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get up and go put it on charge.
perfect. যারা শুনছেন, আমার মনে হয় আমাদের যে উদ্দেশ্য ছিল সেটা ফুলফিল হচ্ছে। অনেক কিছু বিহাইন্ড স্টোরিজ জানা যাচ্ছে স্যাক্রেড গেমস এবং choked, and also like Nihit's personal journey as a filmmaker, কি পরিমাণ স্ট্রাগল করে স্টেপ বাই স্টেপ এই আজকে 2020-এ নিহিত রাইটার হিসেবে established, সেটা আহ, খুবই গল্পের মতো করে সে বলল। এটা খুবই অ্যামেজিং। আমার মনে হয় আমাদের আমাদের যারা এখানে লিখছেন, সরি, আই ওয়াজ টকিং ইন বাংলা
Yeah,
টু
yeah, I
মাই
know, I know.
অডিয়েন্স।
I was listening. I know. It's okay.
I was talking something good, not anything bad from
Good, good,
our
good,
our
good. I
conversation.
could I could gauge from it, even if I didn't understand it, I could gauge from your tone that it must have been something good. But it's okay.
Yeah, so I was let me check any comment that I want to read also. Uh, yeah, I think you already talked about it. Bappi, he was asking like, what is your writing process? But I think you already covered
Yeah,
it.
I have mentioned it. Yeah.
And I have I was curious, like you started writing if I can say, like concept or idea of choked
Yeah,
back in
yeah,
2013, and then
yeah,
you know during the time so many things happen in Indian politics,
yeah, yeah.
the Modi government and the protests and so many things. So how you focused on your vision that was
Okay.
in your mind like 2013, and it's to
Yeah, yeah.
2020. Still, it's super timely. So
Correct,
yeah.
correct. Okay, so what I also wanted to say before in regard to this same thing is that I don't look at Choked as a demonetization film at all. So I am glad that
Mhm.
other people are maybe taking that away from it, and I'm glad that that is also one of the reactions that has come to the fore. I'm glad about that they got that from it. But for me, it's absolutely not a demonetization film. For me, it's a film about a marriage. It's a film
A
about
marriage.
a banker. It's a film about the chaos that people were put through because of demonetization, and
Hmm.
demonetization is a thing that happens to happen in the movie during the course of the
Yeah.
movie. So I was always very sure, and even while discussing it with Anurag sir, I was very sure that we are never going to make these people voices of dissent for the Modi
Hmm.
government, and we are never going to make them overtly say things that we personally believe that are things that should be said about the government and about the policies of the government. And I was,
Hmm.
because he said it in multiple interviews also, Anurag sir has said it in multiple interviews, that the strata of society that we are dealing with in Choked often does not have the privilege to have a political opinion. And I think that is so correct the way he's put it across, because a government bank cashier who does not even have enough money to get by in a month will not waste her time talking about what, whether the move that the demonetization happened was good or bad, because her problems are entirely different in the time of crisis like that. Her problems are how to deal with her own money, her problems are how to deal with her own job, her problems are how to deal with her own husband who's being just more and more unbearable because of the circumstances. So it was
Hmm.
always a very conscious effort to let demonetization be a thing that happens in their everyday life, and how, like, all our lives changed exactly like how Sarita's life changes in demonetization. So it was like a great
Yeah.
equalizer. Everybody was outside the bank, everybody was getting irritated because people were praising the government without realizing the real repercussions of what this move is going to do. Everybody
Hmm.
was blindly sort of celebrating in the euphoria of what a great leader he is, and not seeing that in the larger run it's only going to end up affecting the poor people, the poor population of the country. So yeah, so all of these things that Sarita and Sushant and the other people in the building go through are actually daily life humdrum things that happen to us when demonetization happened. You know, there are people
Yeah.
who were struggling to put a marriage together in their building or in their family, because how to pay other people when all the notes that you have are just invalid now, how to pay
Invalid.
bills, how to pay bills. And bank cashiers had the worst of it. They had to work double triple shifts, and they were coming back home extremely frustrated. And so those were all the things that we wanted to incorporate. That's why if you see, it's also like, if you compare it with Anurag sir's Twitter and if his personal life opinions, the movie is not really saying that much out loud. It's
Hmm.
hinting at
Hmm.
things here and there.
Yeah, it's very
It's
subtle.
obviously there in the dialogue, but I have, at least from my end, tried to make it a movie about a marriage and about money problems within two spouses, because that
Hmm.
idea was far more like interesting to me than a story about demonetization and corruption.
One direct question to you, like who wrote
Yeah.
that particular dialogue? Like, आप
Hmm.
लोगों ने तो मोदी जी को वोट दिया. So you or Anurag?
The one where
The
she says sympathy wala dialogue, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was Anurag sir. He
Yeah, I
often,
guess
yeah,
that.
he often does this. Like, he'll just look at a scene on sets, because he never touches anything before shooting, and on set he'll just go to the character and say, just say this, and then it'll
Hmm.
happen.
Hmm.
And lots of things in Sacred Games also. And the most fascinating part is, even in Sacred Games, all the memes and all the things that get picked up are curiously lines that he gives in the last moment. It is just like, it is a
Yeah.
stamp of confirmation that he knows
Hmm.
his audience and he knows what will work. So yeah, that dialogue was
Yeah.
him.
And I think it's a gradual journey, like, that he actually started 27 years ago. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
in every work he definitely put his mark, the
Of
political
course.
consciousness.
And he's a fantastic writer. I think he's the best spontaneous writer I've ever seen. Like, even on the sets of Sacred Games, I actually readily learned more about writing from him than about direction, and I was in the direction team, but I got to learn so
Mm.
much more about writing than direction. So it was very weird, but he's a fantastic writer, so you can never take that away from him.
By the way, I met him finally 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, and
How was it?
he presented my films on a festival in LA.
Oh,
So
lovely. Okay.
it was amazing. Like, oh my God, I tried to meet you 2016, and now you are presenting
Yeah.
my film.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
we
It's a
had a
great
really
feeling.
yes. And he told me like I can see Anurag on your eyes. It's like 25 years
Yeah.
old Anurag in front of me talking face to face.
That's a great
Yeah.
compliment. Yeah. Nice.
So, yep, I'm almost like at the end of our show. So
Sure.
you worked as a film critic. I know that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is very diplomatic. If
Yeah.
I tell you to rate Choked out of
Yeah.
10,
Yeah. No,
be honest.
I've I'm fully honest. And whenever I was writing reviews, I knew, because I was doing movie reviews as a transition period into filmmaking, and I was doing it for the money. So I obviously have thought about this for hours and hours, that will I be able to fairly judge my own films? But I've just landed at the part that at the answer that I'm just going to say it's halfway through. So it's everything I do is going to be a 5 on 10, because there'll obviously be things that I will want to add to it which I didn't get to add, but there'll obviously be good things also that I won't take away from them. So everything I do will be a 5 on 10. So let's just say Choked is also a 5 on 10 for me, because I see the promise of so much more that I could have added in the script. But at the same time, I don't want to say like call it a 2 or 3, because I know there are good parts in it also. Let's be like honest, because that's not about my writing. It's about also it is a Anurag Kashyap film. So let's give it like some
Yeah.
credit, if not all.
So
But yeah, I'll say
so
5.
I can say like you will give more points for Sacred Games than Choked.
That's also a 5. I'm telling you,
Five?
it's like it's a very, like, diplomatic way, because I will always be in the middle, because I don't want to get to that overconfident place where I say that something I've written is incredible, because that's just like cringe worthy, and I don't think anybody should be like that. But at the same time, I don't want to slip down the path of sort of undermining my own efforts, at least if not my own skill. Like, I know I've worked hard, and especially for Choked, I know I've worked hard for 7 years. So I'm not going to take
Wow.
away from that. And the fact that this project stayed afloat for 7 years with got
Mm.
support from a person like Anurag Kashyap, like, I know that there must be something good in it. So I'm just always going to be bang in the middle. I'm going to be 2.5 out of 5 or 5 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're super honest, man. So there is another interesting question I'm seeing. It's from Rohit
Yeah.
Sadhu Khan. He's asking like, Nihit Bhave have ever joined Vipassana? Watching Sacred Games season 2, it seems so.
No, no, no. We haven't. I haven't joined Vipassana. Neither have any of the other writers of Sacred Games. But like I said, you have to be observant of everything that's happening around you. And I know at least 3 or 4 people in my life who really believe in Vipassana. So we
Mm,
all of us in the writers' room knew that, there are retreats and there are yoga retreats, and I don't want to call Vipassana a cult, but there are cults like
mm,
Vipassana who are, famous for doing sort of self-actualization Zen
mm.
things. So yeah, you pick up from people who've gone to these things, or you pick up from articles that you read, and you pick up from things like that.
Yeah. And another question, I think this will be the last one that I'm picking.
Yeah.
What is your strategy? This is from Sajidul Islam. What is your strategic suggestion for writing political cinema where there is highest level of chance that you will not get the censor at all?
Okay, so I would say I haven't written anything wildly political so far.
Mm, mm,
That's why I
mm.
would keep saying that Choked is not about
No,
demonetization, or
no.
Sacred Games 2 was not really Sacred Games 2 was not really our take on what is happening. Like, it wasn't really politically that inflammatory, because it again, we just showed what was happening in our country. If there is a lynching scene in Sacred Game season 2, it's because there are lynchings in India. So there is nothing that is not happening outside in the real world. But I think not just political cinema, anything that you think is going to be not not serving a larger mass audience, and but you still want to write about it, something that is closer to your heart but you want to make it more palatable. I think you just have to take the route of selling it through a character and not making it
Mm.
about the politics, make it about the character. So if people believe your character and if they are with your character from the beginning, then it's much easier to sell your political views through the character to them. Like just
Yeah,
don't put
yeah.
like things to make people angry because you have political opinions. Use Twitter for that, don't use your screenplays for that. But yeah, try to route it through your sort of characters.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
useful. Yeah.
yeah,
So I think you already gave so many, tips and suggestions. But still,
yeah,
if you want to give us like
yeah.
any Nihit tips,
Oh, there
yeah,
are no Nihit tips, but I would just like, because if like you said, if there are people who will be starting out and there will be really new writers
yeah,
here, or even writers who have the same sort of experience that I do, which is 4 or 5 years, I think just like it, you can never say this enough that as a writer who's trying to make it in any film industry anywhere, you just like please have patience, because there is
mm,
nothing like patience. And it's okay, because I will just give this the example of Choked, because it took 7 years to reach where it
mm,
has reached on Netflix finally. So there'll always be projects that will just not see the light of day, but that does not mean you stop writing. And I think it's very useful to just at least write two things at a time. Because if you put all of your eggs in one basket and then that does not work out, it's a heartbreak that there is no other heartbreak like that. So at least have two or three things, if not completed scripts, have 3 or 4 ideas. Like just have things to pitch to all kinds of people that you will meet. By which I don't mean like have rubbish ideas which are like commercially viable
mm,
ideas, but just have 3 or 4 different kinds of ideas, so that you never know what sort of person you're going to meet at what point in your life. So maybe you're looking for a certain kind of director, or maybe you're looking for a certain kind of producer, but maybe you'll just encounter somebody who believes in you and who sort of has a different taste than what you have. But just be open to every experience and like whatever, but like just have 2 3 ideas going at the same time, so that
mm,
you don't hit that wall of not knowing where to go from here, and you
yeah.
don't invest fully in just one project and then put all of your hopes and dreams and ideas in that one thing, and then if that doesn't work out, it's just going to be devastating. So please don't do that.
Before going to my last question, I have two more. One is like if anyone like wants to collaborate with you, like any
Yeah,
writer or any director from here in Bangladesh, like
yeah,
are
yeah,
you open?
yeah, of course, yeah,
Yeah, so people can contact you. Okay, okay,
for
but
sure,
that
yeah.
definitely I can connect them with you if I feel like yes, this project is like really potential and passionate. Yeah.
For sure, yes, yes, for sure.
And I'm asking the same question to all my guests. Like, can you
Yeah,
suggest one book, one movie,
yeah.
and any music or song that can change
Ooh.
life?
Oh, change life. You just like took it
It's
to
I'm
another
just
level.
I'm just I'm just
Yeah.
sugarcoating.
Yeah. No, no, change life and all, I don't know. I absolutely don't know. But I guess I'll just talk about a few things that I've been watching of late. Like I'll give you a
Mhm,
classic of like each, and then like what I've been watching now. So I think for writers, it's absolutely essential to watch a couple of shows which everybody knows about. I'm not going to repeat the names. They are widely famous all over as a writer show. But I think if you've not seen 6 Feet Under yet, please watch
mhm.
6 Feet Under. It's a fantastic character study. You have to watch it. It's really depressing, but please get through it. And you'll not have seen anything like it. You'll learn so much about characters, you'll learn so much about structures, you'll learn so much about sustaining a story for the span of 6 seasons, 6 years. I think it's one
Mm-hmm.
of the most, and just as a writer, I don't know whether it will work for you if you're not, it is quite dark and it is quite intense, but as a
Mm.
writer, I think it will help you a lot. So I think you should watch that show. I won't recommend a movie. I'll recommend a show because it'll give you also a lot more.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think just with books, I have a very love-hate relationship with books because it's just my opinion, and it must be 100% wrong. But I feel like for a screenwriter, I would rather watch a lot more movies to understand the technique of screenwriting and the technique of characters and the technique of storytelling. And I'm really bad and slow with books, so I end up reading maybe like 8 or 7 or 8 books a year, and I just take my own sweet time with them. So for a film writer, just try to watch as many movies of as many different types as you can, so that you finally find your, like, sweet spot of what you want to do in your own career. But
Yeah.
so that's one aside. Right now, I'm reading a book called Milkman by Anna Burns. It won the Man Booker Prize a couple of years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really difficult to read because she has a very bizarre way of writing. Because sometimes there are a single sentence is going on for a whole page. So just to
Mm-hmm.
sort of understand how she's writing and what she's writing, but it's very rewarding in the sense that she has lovely characters and the story is really quirky. So you like it's half murder mystery, it's half character study, it's a
Wow.
period piece, it's a political piece. Everything you can imagine is there in that book, and it's very interesting to read. So please give that a listen, give that a read. And songs. So again,
Yeah.
I exclusively listen to old Hindi songs, which might not be enriching in any way because like they'll have a very personal effect on you, but might not contribute to your writing. So just all the old Hindi songs, black and white songs, songs from the 50s, 60s, 70s that you can think of, you can do that. But I'll come to listening because
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very big on podcasts. I think it is one of the best mediums to have gained prominence in the last 6, 7, 10 years. And
Mm.
they are beautiful because you never, I at least had never considered just like listening to something as a way of learning, and podcasts have opened up such a weird, bizarre, wonderful world for me in the last 1 or 2 years. So I highly recommend podcasts in general. Just Google the best podcasts of 2017-18 and go listen to them. One I would
Mm.
recommend right now, which I'm listening to right now, is called Rough Translation. It's there on Google Podcasts and it's there on Apple Podcasts. It's from an American host, and he what they do is they take a topic that's really relevant in America right now, which is getting spoken about a lot, but they find a different context to that same topic somewhere else in the world. So, and they
Mm.
take it to
That's
some other
interesting.
part of the world. So, for
Wow.
example, when the Me Too movement came out, and the stand-up comedian Louis C.K., he was obviously in the allegations of Me Too, and he issued a really bad apology. It was a really half-hearted apology that he issued, and the show took
Mm.
that apology and focused on the art of apologizing and how to do it in the
Wow.
right way, and took the story to Japan because Japan was apparently one of the last countries to apologize for their World War II atrocities. So just the
Mm.
topic of apology going from Louis C.K. in America to a country like Japan who did not apologize. Then there's a really interesting second another episode where there in Islamabad, Pakistan, there's a Jane Austen Literary Society run by two ladies. And then that
Mm-hmm.
episode sort of compares Islamabad High Society to Jane Austen's Victorian times and the
Wow.
parallels between them. And it's just so fascinating to listen to these stories from like different parts of the world in a new light, in a new context. So please listen to a lot of podcasts. You can multitask. I in lockdown I've been doing dishes and I've been doing sweeping the floor while listening to podcasts. And
Mhm.
specifically, please listen to Rough Translation.
Wow, I think
Yeah.
that was the most precious, suggestions from you so far because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
totally motivated. And
Yay.
the last one, I
Yeah.
I would love to know what is coming next from you. Like, what is your plan? What you are working now for the
Okay.
future? Yeah, I
Okay.
know a little bit. Like you are preparing for yourself to debut your directing
Yeah. Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I
So,
really just wanted to try it out because the more authority you can have in what you want to say, like I just want a taste of that. I want to see how whether I'll be able to do that. So yes, there is
mhm,
a short film script that has been ready for a little bit now, and whenever lockdown sort of eases down and opens up, I'm going to try to attempt the short film. I'm going to attempt directing the short film and see whether it works. Apart from that, I have already written another film for Anurag sir, and it's
wow.
fully ready and it's ready to go. And we were supposed to shoot that in July, but again, nobody knows when the lockdown will lift and when we'll
Yeah,
be able to do it.
yeah.
So that he is directing it obviously, and we'll be shooting that film whenever the time permits, whenever the circumstance permits. So
Hmm.
it's those two things, and I have another Marathi film to sort of direct myself, which is complete. The script is completed, but I want to
Hmm.
try test waters with the short film and see how that
Yeah.
goes. And if all goes well, then I have like a Marathi language feature film script ready with me that I will then get into. So these three things at various points of development right now.
My fingers crossed.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think, yep, that was
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
experience we have heard
Yeah.
from you, and
Yeah.
I personally saw the passion and the patience on your eyes and your
Yeah.
voice. I'm totally moved, and I
Thank you. Thank you
think
so much.
all the audience they also agree with me, and I
Thank you.
think this
And
is
I would just
just
like
a
to say
beginning.
this is a great platform, what you're doing. This is a great, really interesting thing. And full kudos to you and congratulations for doing this because this is what we need. We need to hear
Yeah.
people who are in either the beginning of their career or have not yet begun their career. We need to hear
Yes.
those people just so that other people who are in the same place can have at least the confidence, if not the inspiration, because yeah, that's it's very soothing to sort of your experiences that you're having right now as your in your own life. So kudos to you. Please keep doing this, and this was fantastic.
Yeah, I want to salute you, man. Yeah, thank you so much,
Cool,
and
cool. Yeah.
I hope
Thank you.
we'll talk again, and
For sure,
yeah,
for
wish
sure.
you all the best for your future. Yep,
Thank you.
thank
All the
you.
best to you too. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye
Nihit.
bye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bye bye. Bye.
Bye.